So thank you, Salwa, for accepting this invitation. We are very excited to get to know you better and to explore a little bit of who Salwa is. So I just wanted to start with the basics and try to understand who Salwa was, what's your journey so far, where do you come from, and how did you reach this place where you are today?
Oh, that. Thank you for this question. And I'm so honored and happy to be here today and get to share a little bit about myself and my journey. I'm going to try to summarize 44 years in few minutes. So I would start by calling out my origin and background because I'm very proud of that. I am Moroccan, Arab, Muslim, African woman, and a mother of two teenagers. I think the combination of all those things define me very well. I was born in late 70s in Casablanca, and I have spent my whole life in Morocco until September 2018, where I moved to Dublin with my two daughters just few months before the pandemic. So last year and a half was a roller coaster because changing country, life, culture, language, everything, and job as well, because I did that move for personal and professional reason, just got me through so many challenges. But if I had to do it once again, I would do it 100 times. Talking a little bit about my journey, starting back like maybe 25 years ago, I have a scientific background. I studied chemical engineering. I don't look like a chemical engineer, okay, but I did that and because I was fascinated by that, and I worked in the industry for a couple of years before deciding this is not maybe not what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. And I decided to change my career path and move to sales leadership roles because back then it was easier to access for a woman in Morocco, those type of jobs. So it was kind of the easy thing to do. And also I was passionate about the space of creativities those jobs can open for professionals and especially for women. So I have never lived outside of my home country for, as I said, for two reasons. The first one is that I didn't have the opportunity when I was younger, even if I wanted. And I had at a point of time to manage between building a career, moving somewhere, and having kids and building my family. And I guess this is a challenge that all the women would have to go through at a point of time. So, but moving in another country was always something that I wanted to do somewhere at the back of my mind. And I wanted to get to know a different culture, give my daughter the opportunity as well to discover the world and see it from different lenses and grow in a diverse environment. So what I have learned through my journey is never lose a sight of your goals. That's important. Even if you can't achieve them right now, you can do them in 20 years. And second, be resilient because there's always a light after the darkness, nothing is easy, and be bold and there to act because you can do it. So this is like a quick summary of who I am and my journey and why I'm here and what I'm doing.
Awesome. It's quite interesting because your background of chemical engineering is quite interesting and quite is similar in a way to mine because I studied environmental engineering and I found it fascinating, the field at the time, but then very easily I just realized maybe it's not really it for me. I need something more juicy, I guess. It's quite interesting that we kind of have similar backgrounds in a way. How about technology? I understand that you were in the industry for a while, then moved to sales. Did you move right away to technology sales, or you were doing other type of sales and eventually you came across with tech sales?
I didn't start by technology. When I started doing sales, I did it in the cosmetic industry, makeup. The dream job for a woman. That's the reason why I did chemical engineering, because I was imagining myself creating perfumes, makeup, body treatment, like cosmetic. I wanted to work in the cosmetic industry, but I didn't have that opportunity in Morocco back then. That's why I decided that I want to do something else, because working in those heavy industry, like I worked in the tire industry, I was the only woman in that factory. Okay, so I said, no, this is not what I want to do. So I started sales in the cosmetic industry for 5 years, but it was a small company. And after 5 years, like what can I do more? in that company. So I didn't see any perspective of career growth. That's why I decided not to move to technology, like it came by chance, but technology has always fascinated me. Like I've been through various digital transformation in the last decades, 3 decades. Like I remember, like I worked on those big PC that weighted 20 kilos with MS-DOS as the operating system. And I think I was 17 when I accessed tech for the first time at the university. And it always fascinated me. Back then, I was doing Fortran programming for industrial machine. And I was fascinated because I was like, I am typing command and I am ordering a machine, and a big industrial machine to do things. How powerful is that? So I was always like, oh, technology gives powers. Technology is an extension of humankind power. So it came by chance, and I was like like a revelation. I was like, oh, this is where I want to evolve. Technology is fast, is changing, is leading world transformation, but also it's making the world smaller and opening opportunities, economical opportunities for people in the challenging area of the world, opportunities they couldn't imagine reaching in a million years. Technology made that possible. So for me, it's the right combination between fast growing, changing environment, but also environment that is helping people to grow and thrive. And those two things are like at the core of my values.
Amazing.
That's so great to hear, especially because we are all happy to work in tech industry today. So it's nice to hear one more time a positive side of it. But let's dive into more complicated topics. So what I wanted to ask is, I don't think that it's any secret that many women in tech industry have felt their gender has affected the way how they were treated. And I imagine with your experience and that many years spent in the industry, you also felt this here and there. So can you tell us more about how you handle this and this side of the coin?
Thank you. It's a great question. It's very critical questions. Before talking about gender diversity challenges in the tech industry, I wanted to zoom out on the topic and talk about the challenges that every woman face because she's a woman, okay? And I'm gonna link that with my background, okay? Challenges start at very early stage when you hear constantly as a little girl in my social environment, the social environment where I grew, that you can't do this or you're not supposed to do this because you are a girl. Like there's no logic reason but your gender. Like your gender is the reason why you can't do something, you can't access to something, you can't go where you want, etc. So I've been hearing this a lot when I was a little girl in my family environment. And this challenge continue when you evolve in a very male-driven society, and then in a very male-driven or male-dominant professional environment. And you have to break bias, and you have to deal with ambiguity, and you have to deal with some of your insecurities and some challenges with self-confidence because you've been told many times when you were a little girl that you can't do that because you're a girl. And you keep having this voice stopping you at the back of your mind telling you, well, maybe you can't do it because you're a woman. Well, no, you can't. It sounds so wrong for me back then, and it has changed a lot with time. Like I see a lot of effort being done to drive gender diversity and to give women much more space and place to grow across different industry, and especially in the tech industry where like years ago, you wouldn't find many women studying computer science, for example, or like doing technical study, because it was the thing that boys would do and girls would do something else like sales or marketing or communication or HR, those kind of roles. So I'm happy to see that those things are changing now. In my career, I've been through different challenges, challenging situations, some other funny situations, but the way I've dealt with it since ever was by showing, I would say, three things: courage, resilience, and hard work. And I'm putting them in this order on purpose. Why? Courage, because it starts by being vocal and dare to speak up and break the bias. It's a fight against yourself first. Like, okay, I'm gonna be bold and courageous and stop thinking that I can't do something because a woman. So it's a personal fight. That's why I'm talking about courage as a first step. And second one is resilience, because it's not but by being vocal that it would work. You face a lot of failures and you still face a lot of bias, etc. So you have to be resilient and keep trying. And the last one is hard work. Nothing happened without hard work. It's one of my core values. So hard work is very important after courage and resilience to achieve your career goal, especially in the tech industry as a woman.
That's really, really cool. So I think each of us felt like this at least once, but like you said, there's so many challenges to reveal once you go through, and once you really have this courage to try and be vocal and change things. But I would say that for your background, based on what you also explained us, it can be even more challenging, because probably you had some situations in life that being woman in tech is one thing, but then having other things, other biases facing them at the same time must be extremely challenging. So because you are unique in that way, maybe you can share more regarding other biases and how did you face them simultaneously. I think this will be very helpful for many girls out there.
Yeah. Thank you for this question. I'm smiling thinking about it, because when you look at statistically, what is the typical profile in the tech industry? It's the native English speaker, Caucasian, white, tall, fit man. This is how I like to describe it. That's statistics. That's a reality. No matter what the country is, no matter what the company is, that's a reality. Some other companies are doing much better than other, but that's the reality. And as you can see, I'm not any of those. I'm not the native English speaker, Caucasian, white, tall, fit man. So I am a woman, I am African, I am Arab, I am Muslim, and all those things didn't help through time to access same privileges and same opportunities as this classical profile that we see in the tech industry. So a couple of questions I've always hear from people is, where are you from? Oh, I didn't imagine you like that. And it summarizes the bias and the assumptions that people would make about me or about women like me, because I am coming from this background. They make assumption about your physical appearance, because for them being Arab or being African means a color, skin, or like something like that, or a way to dress up or a way to behave. They make assumption about your ability to speak up and communicate because you're coming from a different background. They also make assumption about your capabilities because you are a woman. Would you be brave enough? Would you be effective enough? They will make assumption about how smart you are because maybe you didn't have access to those prestigious university they went through. So all those assumptions we live with as a woman coming from my background, but something that a lot of people ignore is that Arab women are very complex, sophisticated, resilient, and the best fighter I've ever met in my life, because they're having this social pressure, but also the will and the capabilities to build a career and growth. They learn how to balance between work, career, and house or family duties in a perfect way. But yes, so this is what makes an Arab woman talented in her way, and I'm very proud to be one of them. And I think communicating and showing this diversity and talent is the best way to break those assumptions.
That's amazing. And you touched a little bit in the beginning that there's some bias about being women because you expect the women to be good housewives, be good parents, good mothers, and sometimes the career is the last thing that comes in this long train. So when did you decide that, yeah, I'm doing all of that, but I'm going to do equally the career? How did you decide that you weren't going to comply with the norms of the society and choose a slightly different path for you?
I had the chance to be very much inspired by my mother. My mom was a working mom, which is not the case, which was not the case back then in Morocco, okay? And she always taught me to try to be perfect in everything you do, okay? And I saw her like working, but at the same time, looking after a family of 4 kids and trying to balance between both. And she always said, be good at school. You need to find a good job and keep your job because it's going to give you a financial independence and autonomy. And you can be, you own your destiny. By financial autonomy, you own your destiny, which is true. So those things always resonated in me. And my culture this is my culture. Like Arab women are raised to achieve both. Like you can, of course, build your career and study, but you can't give up on your family duty. So I've always thought that I want to build my career, but at the same time, I had kids, I was married, and I did what I had to do to build a family because I wanted that as well. So it's again a lot of hard work from both sides, and this is what has shaped me since years.
It's quite beautiful for you to mention your mom. Even for myself, I grew up in a challenging background economic wise, and my mom was the only person actually who was working in our household. So I always admired the perseverance and how strong you need to be able to go to work, raise your family, and that's something that stuck with me. And my mom was like, yes, we don't live in wealth, but I want to make sure that you have the education so you can thrive and be more than this. So it's quite inspiring to see that you have as well this amazing hero in your life.
And I think that every girl needs a role model to drive her. It was my mom in her way, okay, but I saw her working really hard. Like my mom was a teacher, so she was working at school, educating kids, and back home she was doing education for us as well, and looking after her house and cooking and cleaning and doing all those things. So she was a superhero doing all that with 4 kids. Like I couldn't do it with 4 kids for sure, but she was my role model, like shaping me to be able to do both.
And I believe the more you thrive to be the next role model for other girls, no matter how hard it is, it keeps you inspired. And you're really looking forward to be the next role model for all other women. So with that in mind, what do you think, how we can make sure that some other Salwas out there across Africa and Middle East feel empowered to take that not so obvious, not so easy, not so expected path? What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say that first of all, we all have a responsibility somehow to drive that in our act, the way we behave as a parents, as friends, as professional. But I would say that children education is very important to break the bias. Okay, it starts at school. And when I say children, I'm not talking about girls only, but boys and girls. Okay, gender bias is coming from the fact that we are not educating our children to see the word, to see people as human and not a gender. That would be for me like the first step. The second one, girls' education in less privileged country. Unfortunately, in Morocco, but also in so many other countries in Africa or in the Middle East, we still see a lot of girls leaving school and education at early age because they get married or because they have family duties or because they have to work to support their families, etc. So education, girls' education in less privileged country for me is important. Empowerment for women through social actions, either and even at company level. Like I personally was involved in women's ERGs to support career growth and those kind of things. So I think it's very important to share experiences and to share best practice with women in early career stage to help them grow. Diversity in the politics leaders. Unfortunately, we still see like not much women in those areas. So I think the word would be probably better if we have more gender diversity at politics, and the way media show women, and the way media share informations, and the way media influence bias is also important. So those are to me like the main things that would probably help more women to be vocal and bold about their career.
We will look forward to contribute to that one day.
It's quite interesting because, especially in the politics space and how media portray women, especially during COVID, we've seen that a lot of the majority of countries that have female leaders have been more successful in a way dealing with the pandemic. Now, if that's true or it's just a strike of luck, we can't really say. But also, I believe that if there was more women in leadership roles ahead of our countries, I believe that some of the bad habits will be cut in a way, and maybe we would see countries evolving quicker, and for the better as well. And one thing that I see, and it's quite interesting, I've seen this study from, I think it was a Harvard professor, and he said that if you have a woman in a leadership role versus a man, and you go into their office and ask, oh, where is the photocopies area, and if the man says, oh, I'm sorry, it's around the corner, but I'm really busy, I really can't go for it to help you, the person will say, oh, okay, it's expected. But if a woman says the exact same thing, they're like, oh, this she doesn't help, she's mean, she's evil. So there's quite an interesting perception. If a woman is working as hard as a man, is seen and perceived differently. And I see as well in politics how we have here this this politician, she's a lady, and compared to man, her peers, I can see that she got the hardest from the media compared to the man. So it's quite interesting how, even though we're moving quicker, some things are still slagging behind the wheels. On the Arab topics and supporting Arab women across the world, and overall women in across the world that don't come from wealthy countries, do you feel that this type of women are, this community of women is increasing in the tech industry? And if you see, how do you feel that that this community has grown in the tech community, and how can we support the community to grow and prosper in leadership roles across the board in this type of companies?
It's a great question. I see there's more and more women in the tech industry in the Arab world, but there's still a lot of work to do for sure. Okay, I'm gonna share with you a fact. It might surprise you to learn that one in 3 startup in the Arab world is founded or led by a woman.
Oh, wow.
That's a higher percentage that in Silicon Valley. Women are becoming a force to be reckoned with the startup scene across the Middle East, because the tech industry is still relatively new in the Arab world. and there's no legacy of it being a male-dominated field comparing to the Silicon Valley, for example. So many entrepreneurs from the region believe that technology is one of the few spaces where everything is viewed as possible, including breaking gender norms, making it a very attractive industry for women. Despite many challenges, including societal pressure of women to stay at home and so on, digital gender gap and structural disadvantage in fundraising and investment, female entrepreneurs are finding new and creative ways to overcome barriers and enter the workforce and start their own business. And because those businesses are the best way for them to work from home. So working in the tech industry for women in the Arab world is also the best way to combine between career and family duties. That is something very important in the culture. So I read an article recently about it. I was fascinated and surprised to hear that one of 3 startups in the Arab world is led or founded by a woman, which is higher than the Silicon Valley. So the path is there, the progress is here. We still need to maintain it and push it to make women much more present in tech industry.
It's amazing. I wasn't aware of that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it is true. If I look to Silicon Valley and any new company that emerges in our economy, they tend to be founded by men, barely have any women in their board. So it's quite interesting that to see that Arab countries and Arab companies, women are thriving and driving innovation in these areas. Mm-hmm. And it's typically there's this the first world tends to look at this type of country. They're not as evolved. They're slower, keeping up with the pace. But actually, you are ahead of the pace in this matter in particular. So it's quite interesting to see, and I'm quite curious to see how things will evolve in the upcoming years with this change of leadership and entrepreneurship as well. So I'm quite. I will definitely pay attention to this, and looking at other women, your daughters, you mentioned you have 2 teenager daughters, considering tech industry or considering not female type of jobs, let's say, what would you advise them? What you recommend them? And what would you like to tell them, take into account that when you were in their positions, no one told you that?
I would say the advice that I give to my daughter, or at least I'm showing them, because it's about saying things, but also showing, is take the stage and embrace it. Because sometimes, unfortunately, women, because they have those bias or they are victim of bias, they tend to be in the backstage doing the hard work, and they don't dare taking the stage and embracing it. That's very, very important. And I also say, like, do it because you can do it. Like, we are the first blocker of ourselves. Okay, do it because you are responsible about giving the example, and do it because this is how you will leave a legacy to other women. It has to start by someone doing something to inspire other. So yeah, like, it's about saying things, but also doing those things to show example to my daughters, but also to women around me, and say, okay, I didn't have maybe all the privileges that others have had in their life, but still, with will, hard work, and resilience, you can achieve whatever you want. And my daughters, for them today, like, comparing to how I grew as a little girl, one day they told me, my little daughter, she is 13, and we were having a walk around the house, and she said, Mom, you know, you're such an inspiration for me. You know, teenager, they never tell you those kind of things. You know, they always complain and they always want things, So when you have this aha moment of your teenager telling you, Mom, you're such an inspiration for me because when I compare what you had back then when you were a little girl comparing to what you are giving us today, it's crazy what you have done in your life with nothing. And I was like fascinated by what she said because I was proud. I was happy to hear that from my daughter, but I was proud because I was like, this is why I'm doing all that. It's to inspire my daughter and to give them the best role model for them to grow and thrive in life. So it was my aha moment of the year last week.
That's so beautiful. I'm sure they feel inspired by looking at you. Maybe one additional question to that one. I think that's great. And also, the very little girls are being inspired. Having a role model in front of them helps a lot of them making a bold decision, just trying and trying to make things work. But probably at some point there will be difficult times, or they will feel, I'm not sure if I really want to struggle with all this anymore. I might want to do something else instead. So what do you think would be a key reason for them not like continuing? And what was for you whenever you felt down was the key reason for, no, I will continue, I will do, I know what is my vision, and I will just be persistent. So
Something that I always say to people and my daughters and people around me, and I really believe in it, is never lose a sight of what is your final goal. People sometimes focus on the path. Oh, it's hard today. It's going to be hard next week. Oh, I'm going to have 2 difficult years because I have to study or whatever. If you keep focusing on the path, you might give up every time you meet an obstacle. But if you keep the focus on the final goal, this is, I'm moving from point A to point B. And I know in between I'll face adversity, I'll face challenges, I'll face happiness, I'll face sadness and failures and success. It's fine. It's fine. Never lose the sight of your final goal, no matter what.
that's beautiful, especially when you have a little one telling you you're such an inspiration. I believe this will stick
And I had that
with you for all.
conversation with them. I had that conversation with them yesterday at dinner time. We were talking about motivation, and they were complaining about waking up in the morning and having to do like homeschooling and stuff. And I was asking that question: what do you do to keep the motivation and to do your work? And my daughter said, I just think about 4 p.m. when school is done and I can go and watch something on Netflix. And I said, well, that's great. Keep thinking about 4 p.m. and that you have to do all those things to reach 4 p.m. and enjoy your time. And that's it. And that's exactly what his life is about. Focus on the final goal and do not care a lot about all the challenges you might face in that path.
It's incredible. Thank you. Before we end up in a light mood, I was wondering if there's anything else that you want to share with us, any advice, any suggestion, any feedback you want to share with us two today in this call, but with any other person who will listen to us later on.
Well, thank you so much. I wanted to say thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you for covering that topic, because it's an uncomfortable topic sometimes to talk about diversity in general, gender diversity, especially in the tech industry for women with a complete different background like mine, comparing to women in the European world, for example. So it's a great opportunity for me to speak up, and I hope this will give ideas or some sort of inspiration to any women who listen to that. We are capable of doing so much. Just focus on your final goal, be bold, and take the stage.
Wow. Thanks a lot, Salwa. I think we were very, very happy to have you today because it's also very difficult to find somebody that will be that open and transparent and taking the courage to discuss not that comfortable topics. So I believe that will help a lot in the future to many other women. So thanks for that. Carolina, do you want to kick off this or that?
You can start, don't worry. You can.
Okay, so
it's the same as yours.
It's a very easy challenge, so you have just to choose between the two. So we start very easy. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Great. Dogs or cats?
Both.
Nice. Fire or ice?
Fire.
Yes. Movies or books?
Movies.
Yes. Card games or board games?
Board games.
Games. Beach or mountain? I believe we
Beach.
know this one. Yes. Then winter or summer?
Summer.
Going out or staying in when it was not the COVID time?
Going out all the time.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
And the final one, sweet or salty?
Salty.
Salty. Okay, very nice. Very interesting choice. Thanks. This was so fun.
Thank you so much, Carolina, Nina.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I really hope to be able to meet you in person because I really do miss the interaction, the face-to-face interaction. But I'm really inspired by you, so I really want to go beyond the Teams call and actually see you in person, hopefully soon. Until then, I just wish you the best of luck, best of success, and a lot of health. A lot of health, a lot of money, and hopefully once we're out of this pandemic, we can enjoy the health we have and enjoy our privilege by going out, having a coffee, going to the beach, hopefully soon as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolina, Nina. Wish you the same. Have a nice day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Bye.